Hi, kitty cats. I am a transgender woman, and I have 4 really big pet peeves about how I'm understood in the world today. So it's time for me to fix these misunderstandings and allow us transgender people to coexist peacefully. So I am Amethysta. I am an author and a podcaster. I'd love you to check the links below for more information about me and the work I do. That first link there is my personal website, Amethysta.io. If you go there, you can see all the social media networks I'm on, and I hope you'll follow me for updates on everything that I do. The second link below is my professional website. That's genderidentitytoday.com. All of the articles that I write, all the podcasts that I do are published there. These live streams are also published there. And I also take work from other contributors. So if you like this particular content, please consider subscribing down there at genderidentitytoday.com. You can get a subscription for as little as $2 a month, And also, if you'd like to contribute content to genderidentitytoday.com, please contact me. Again, you can use my personal website's contact page to do that. So if you would like to leave a tip, that third link down there is a coffee, goes to coffee.com. So feel free to, send a tip as you see fit. All right. So I mentioned I want to talk about my 4 top pet peeves. And I want to start off here by doing something vaguely scientific. It's not going to start off sounding scientific, but I promise we'll get there, okay? So what peeves me, I hate the word trans. When I hear the word trans, I think of like a few things. Like I go, what is this? A trans what? Transatlantic flight? Transitory verb? Is it your bitchin' 1984 Trans Am? The thing is that trans is a prefix. And some of you may recall, I am a chemist. And so there is a type of isomerism in organic chemistry, if you're any kind of a chemist, and it's called cis-trans isomerism. Hey, actually, Spiritist 9, I'm going to get there. Keep watching. Spiritist.9 asks, how many genders are there? This will be fun. Stick around. So let's talk about cis-trans isomerism. The reason why it's called cis-trans isomerism, you have 2 carbons. I don't know how this is going to look. You have 2 carbons, and they are bonded with a double bond. What that means is that it doesn't rotate. And so you end up with 4 groups, 2 on each side, that are in a relationship with each other. What cis, in a cis-trans isomerism relationship means is that there are 2 groups that are on the same side as. That's from the Latin, on the same side as. What trans means is on the opposite side of. So you have one here. They're on the opposite side of them. If you were to throw this into sex and gender, we came up with the word cisgender. That implies you have the gender on the same side of sex, and transgender to imply you have gender on the opposite side of sex. But the thing is, there's a difference between 2 carbons double bonded to each other and sex and gender. The carbons actually are in a relationship. They're bonded to each other. But sex and gender are not related. Sex is a characteristic of a species. Gender are characteristics of an individual. So, the proper term here, and maybe Spiritist 9 will like this, the proper term here is just gender, because cisgender and transgender make no sense. It implies a relationship between sex and gender that doesn't even exist. And so for what it's worth, transgender is a nonsensical word. Cisgender is a nonsensical word because the sex and gender do not have a relationship to each other. Now you may ask me, why am I using the term transgender? I even used it in the title of this video, didn't I? Well, here I'm going to bow to some social expectations here. People understand it. And if you've ever looked at one of my other videos, I talk about red balls and then red spheres and blue spheres. And I say that even though we use the terms red sphere and blue sphere, they're not really blue or red. They are just spheres and they reflect a particular color of light. So we use terms, even though they're not scientifically accurate, we use them. People understand the word transgender, and so I'm going to go ahead and use it despite me not liking it. So there's pet peeve number one. The word trans is a prefix, or trans is a prefix. The word transgender is nonsensical, and the word cisgender also nonsensical. I'm going to start going to some comments because I got a few coming to me on TikTok. Hopefully, Spiritus, that made some sense. How many genders are there? Oh, there's only one. There's yours. Cute, huh? All right, John Handicock. Oh, this guy's a funny one. I get the sense, actually, if a thought were to go through your head, it was going to be a long and lonely journey. So, John, however, says, I make up terms to say I'm smart, but not wise. It's all a lie. Huh, okay. Well, I guess I'd love you to go tell me that cis-trans isomerism doesn't exist. There are a bunch of organic chemists who may not like that about you. But John does recommend I come to Christ. Okay. All right. Xander, you're very welcome for defining these terms. Oh, says you love me. Thank you so much. All right. Indie Kitty 1 says, of course I'm not... Oh, hang on. I'm going to wait on that one. Thank you. All right. I'll get to you, Indie Kitty. All right, so I mentioned I used the word transgender because it's socially acceptable. It's what people understand despite not being scientifically accurate. And so I'm going to move on to pet peeve number 2. That's not what social construct means, okay? So social construct. This is a phrase that's used in a way. Now, I'm not saying social constructs don't exist. The phrase is currently used... with regards to gender in a way that means anything goes, that gender's beyond our control. You can't define gender, or my particular favorite, and maybe actually one of my TikTok viewers would have done this, sometimes you get people who just shout at each other. One goes, well, gender is sex, and the other one goes, gender is a social construct, and this goes back and forth. And so I've heard people use the phrase, gender is a social construct, really just to say, you're just wrong. And I have a catchphrase to prove it. And I see that on both sides. I'm not saying people who call gender a social construct are wrong. I am saying that when it's just a catchphrase and you don't know what it means, it's a good idea not to use it. So, what is a social construct? A social construct is a word or a phrase that acquires meaning by use in a social environment. So it doesn't necessarily have any particular meaning on its own. You may recall, so slang is a great example of this. You may recall earlier I talked about your bitch in 1984 Trans Am. And that's because I'm from Los Angeles. And I was in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley in the 80s. So bitchin' was a word that really got to me, obviously. But does that have any meaning to you? Like, if that doesn't say anything to you, that's part of the reason, or that's part of what a social construct is. Originally, that phrase was applied to scientific facts. Seems kind of strange, doesn't it? If you're going to say gender can't be defined, how could scientific facts be social constructs? But I brought up the idea of a red ball. And we look at a red ball and we say, yes, that is red. It is a ball that is red, therefore... But the thing is that red ball doesn't truly exist. It's a sphere that reflects light, and the social environment considers it to be red, if you can buy that. There's also a greater point of a social construct. There are philosophers called social constructionists, and they say questions like, what's a plumber? What on earth is a plumber? Because if you live in a social environment that doesn't have indoor plumbing, you have no idea what a plumber is. There's a phrase that actually has no meaning within that social environment. Oh, hey, Matt's here. Hi, Matt. So, all right, so that particular bit, social constructionism, plays into Judith Butler's concept where they said that gender is a social construct. In fact, Judith Butler was a student of now I'm blanking on the name, but their graduate advisor, was a well-known social constructionist. Obviously not well enough known that I remember the guy's name, so forgive me. But when Judith Butler used the phrase, gender is a social construct, I believe they would rephrase it today to say gender role. Not necessarily gender, but that. So also the other bit of her theory, their theory, pardon me, Professor Butler, is that we perform a role that's based on social expectations. Because if I were to ask you these questions, what are women's clothes? It's clothes that women wear. What's a woman's hairstyle? It's a hairstyle that a woman wears. In fact, Wake Up Lib 72 even says it right here. It says hair says it all. It certainly does. It's a woman's haircut. I appreciate you bringing that up, Wake Up Libs 72. Thank you. I really truly appreciate that. You're a good person, I'm sure. So, to get to my pet peeve, if you're going to use a social construct, it's not gender that we're talking about. It's a gender role that we're talking about. Gender can be defined. In fact, gender has been defined. I have a whole video about the distinction between sex and gender. I'm not dumping on Judith Butler. Judith Butler is not a biologist, so there you go. That's my pet peeve. Gender is a social construct. Okay, now I'm going to jump back to comments because, gosh, these people love me so much. So, Painted by Wendy says, transitioned in 1998. So glad we had none of this far left ideology. We were trannies. Simple. I have something you might like, Wendy, that's coming up. There you go. Titus, who is an American bully, bullies me by saying therapy now. Listen, I understand you're being kind to me. It's so nice. I appreciate you. That's really cool. That's good of you. All right. Joshua Schnabel, 3, says, true XX and XY are assigned, but I'd agree that everything outside of that is most definitely social. I did not disagree that there are roles that are given meaning by the social environment. And hopefully, Joshua, the rest of my explanation actually gave everything, said everything else that you needed there. So, all right, intersex is assigned, very true. All right, Alicia, I'm Gen X 1965. Just barely, Alicia. Wow, 1965. I'm kidding. So, you do you, that's fine, but quit assigning real women as cis. We want respect too. Alicia, I hope you saw when I was talking about gender as a social construct, as well as the topic before about cis and trans, that I don't believe cisgender is exactly a sensical word. So hopefully that does something. Cis is not an adjective. Cis is a prefix, first of all. And Matt, I know you're helping me out here, but cis is a prefix, and I do totally agree that it can be nonsensical. So I'm with you, Matt, and I'm not against you. So who's Sir RX Grinch? Did I miss this guy? Oh, Adam's apple is the giveaway. Really? Huh. I can't see it. Thank you, though. All right. Here we go. We also have Judy C. Dudes, just stay out of women's spaces. I'm in my room, Judy. Are you here with me? You're creeping me out. Hi, Genevieve. All right. Now I'm going to move on to my third pet peeve. My third very pet peeve. And it is, no, I'm not going to hit on you. All right, Indie Kitty, this is where you come back. I have talked about this for quite a long time. Oh my gosh, Matt. Holy cat. Matt Adland has reminded me, to be fair, my room is a woman's space. I love you so much. You are the greatest. All right. I've talked about hitting on people for the longest time. I will put it, let me paint a scene for you here. In 1994, okay, I was 24 years old. In Athens, Georgia, I came out as both pansexual and transgender. I didn't actually use those words because I didn't exactly have those words at the time. But I came out as pansexual and transgender. I had known those both all my life, but it was only when I was 24 that I was able to accept the words explicitly. I'm going to take a quick diversion. Sir, whatever. This Grinch person who tells me that I have an Adam's apple says that it's there. It's there on women, man. Do you not know what a trachea looks like? You could use an anatomy lesson. There you go. All right. So in 1994, it came out, and I was really great with this. I had accepted these words. It felt great. I felt like I had really sort of found a level of identity that I hadn't really had before. And that meant that when somebody asked me why I was so weird, and that happened, because I'm from California, right? I'm from Los Angeles. I go to Georgia. People were like, you're not from around here now, are you? So somebody asked me why I'm so weird. And I said, I'm pansexual and I'm transgender. That's not weird. And actually a few of them went, no, actually those two are the same thing. You're a pansexual transgender woman. That's weird. So immediately I had friends who dropped me. It was a bummer. And then immediately I had friends who supported me. Thank you. Yay. And then I had other friends who were kind of in between. And they said something like, look it, I'm okay with you being pansexual. Just don't hit on me. Now, I heard that enough times in Georgia. So it was 94, whatever. Thank you, Keegan. Yeah, I'm glad you know this isn't my natural hair color. It's good. Anyway, I made up a phrase about this. And the phrase that I made up is the presumptuousness of the heterosexual. At this point in my life, I might revise that to the presumptuousness of the cisgender heterosexual. But it is the presumption that every homosexual person wants every member of the gender to which they are attracted. This is the same presumption that, like, you know, every gay man is watching you in the locker room, so you better make sure you don't take a shower and you go stinky back to work. It's also the same presumption that every lesbian is just waiting to entice you to buy a Subaru when you're not looking. Now, I admit, it probably comes from a good place. Oh, hi, Saoirse. I'm sorry I didn't see you. So this probably comes from a good place. I mean, I think that it was a sense of supporting me. But I gotta admit, I probably had friends from which I recoiled. You know, when they said that, they go, look, don't hit on me. And I probably went, oh, yeah, no problem. I wonder if that hurt them. I don't know. I do have a thought about that, though. I actually believe most people, at least many, I don't know about, I'm not going to make a most thing here, but I believe many people are curious about what it would be like to have a homosexual, encounter. But they don't engage with it out of fear of social expectation because that frightens them. If you have a homosexual encounter, what if that means you're gay? What if you find out? It's hard. But if you say, look, don't hit on me, this is like sort of slipping a homosexual, like a stealth homosexual experience in there. Maybe they'd be wrong. So anyway, here, but I was talking about transgender pet peeves, right? I wasn't talking about homosexuality. I was talking about transgender pet peeves. So Rena Black says most people are not curious. Oh, okay. I mean, maybe Rena is not. That's a bummer. Because I bet you're a lot of fun, Rena. So I was talking about transgender pet peeves. A lot of people assume transgender means homosexual. But really, the thing is that all of us have to figure out what that means. I mean, what our sexuality. There is a distinction between sex and gender, but then if you were to say that a transgender person is homosexual, what does that mean? Do you have a transgender man who likes men? Or does a transgender man like women? Do we care about the body parts? Is that what makes a sexual relationship, or is there something else in there? And it's really, 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 really difficult to figure that out. Here's the point. Gender transition does not necessarily mean that your sexuality changes, or that it would change, or that it should change. because your gender, while related to sexuality, is not the same. Now, I have heard, there's a friend of mine who told me that when she began taking hormone therapy, estrogen hormone therapy, she became more attracted to the gender from which she transitioned. And I've heard that actually the other way too, a transgender man who said now he's more attracted to women. I don't know if that's a function of hormonal changes. I would take the guess it was really that as we go along accepting who we are, more of who we are can continue to come out. And so you become more open to thinking about, people of the opposite gender and your attraction to them. So I will say that transitioning to present as a woman is an expression of identity. It is not, Sir X Grinch, whatever you are, a cheap ploy to hit on you. There you go. That's that was my third pet peeves. Now let me look at comments again. Gosh, these are great. Holy cats. Let me see. To be fair, okay, so here we go. Oh, Matt is a demisexual cishet dude, proving them wrong since the 70s. Thank you. All right. Joshua says if they have any wherewithal, it comes from the place of humanity. Our species won't survive if we're. I guess what you were trying to say, Josh, has to do with homosexuality, and I'm a little unsure. You're talking about genetic conditioning, and I'm not going to buy it. But Thorn Azazel believes I might be voting for Harris. Whatever. All right. Let's see. There's a combat wounded vet. Ooh, Matt, I didn't know. I'm sorry. That's rough. So Matt is saying that he would not vote for a guy who doesn't respect his combat wounding, and I would agree with that. So Charles Stone asks, did I come up with that name all by myself? Actually, I didn't. The Ph.D. was awarded by University of Georgia, but I appreciate that. That's a great question. All right. So Joshua thinks it's probably both, presumably the change in sexuality. Joshua believes it's really the point of hormone therapy to make me comfortable, and that has been true. It also helped me grow boobs, and that's pretty awesome. All right, last thing on the TikTok thing says, new here saying hello. Hi, Johnny Zion. What's my PhD in? My PhD is in analytical chemistry. So, all right, what do we got on YouTube here? Love the hair color. People are not curious. Okay, so Indie Kitty now says, exactly, promiscuity is not limited to non-heterosexual or cisgender people. Yeah, holy cats, I've seen some serious promiscuity in cisgender heterosexual people. So, all right. Assuming most people are curious sounds like a kink. You're going to love this next pet peeve then. Stand by, Francisco Leal. Yeah. All right. Rena says, this is what's wrong with the community. They assume everyone is like them. I came in open to hearing about your experience. Well, I'm talking about it, Rena, and here's the point. I think that if you look around, there is a tremendous assumption that I am just like you, that I should be cisgender, I should be heterosexual. And if you're open to hearing about my experience, I would recommend you don't make any assumptions about who I am and what I'm trying to do here. So if you're still listening, Rena, and I hope you are, really, truly, honestly, I hope you keep listening. I have a whole lot of videos, and I hope you'll be interested in watching those. So, all right. Trying to place my accent. Do I live in the South? No, I don't. I grew up in Southern California, and that's my accent, I guess. It's a valley accent. Totally. All right. Here is my last pet peeve, and Rena, hopefully you will appreciate this. There is a difference between fetish and identity. I am only just going to start off with this. What is a fetish? A fetish is a fixation on an object or non-genital body part that causes sexual arousal. I'm pulling this from a DSM here, folks. I'm not making this up. Pulling it from the DSM. By the way, hi Jamie. You and Holly love me. I appreciate that. Okay, so a fixation on an object or non-genital body part that causes sexual arousal. So body parts that could be like feet, ears, hair, but non-genital also includes like boobs, butt. It could also be objects, situations, activities. So that could be like clothing, BDSM, smoking. But I want to point out the purpose is actual sexual arousal. And on a quick side note, and I find this to be very fascinating, I don't think I have ever been aroused just by looking at genitals, right? Like, I don't think I've actually pulled out a picture and gone, hey, look, a penis or a vagina. I would like to have sex right now. But if you look at this definition from the DSM, again, you're technically only normal if you only get aroused by genitalia. It's interesting. If you were aroused by things like clothing or hair or boobs or butts, that's a fetish. Interesting little thing. Think about that. Put that in. That's something you're going to think about tonight. You're going to be lying awake at 2 a.m. going, crap, am I a fetishist? Most likely. So, there is a thought that every fetish means a mental disorder, and it doesn't. Fetishes are only classified as mental disorders when they cause psychosocial distress. And just to be, totally clear on that, what I mean is that you have to be messing up your life with this fetish. All right? If you go, well, every fetish messes up your life. No, actually what that is the same definition that causes depression to be classified as a mental disorder. Some depression is fine. The DSM doesn't say that if you are ever depressed, you have a mental disorder and you're screwed up and you need to come and spend a week in a hospital. But if you have enough depression that's going to disrupt your life, that is when it becomes a mental disorder. So fetishes are not classified as mental disorders. There you go. Now that I have talked about transgender as a fetish, and Jamie, actually, I don't disagree with you. There are disorders, mental disorders, that don't have to cause you harm to be classified as a disorder. Totally true. I will say that things like depression and other fetishes, not that depression is a fetish, I'm rescinding that. Those are not classified as disorders until they cause psychosocial distress. So thank you for calling me out on that clarification, because there are certainly disorders that are disorders. They doesn't take a particular order of magnitude before they get classified as such. Thank you. So I've had people tell me that being transgender is a fetish. All right, and I want to bring back up psychosocial distress. You have to be messing up your life with this fetish. But my life has gotten so much better having transitioned gender. My psychosocial distress has decreased. Now, I will admit, early in my life, I did associate cross-dressing with sexual arousal. That is not because of the gender aspect of it. I believe that it was nothing more. I mean, I've thought about this a lot since I've transitioned gender. I believe it was really just a violation of social expectations, right? This is a taboo. I'm wearing women's clothing. I think there was an excitement in violating taboos. But when I put on like my bra in the morning, I don't go, yeah, nice. Because I'm not violating any taboos. I'm living as a woman, and that's how it goes. I will certainly admit, I have my share of fetishes. Being transgender is not one of them. I have never been sexually aroused about the act of transitioning gender. This is very difficult. It's not something that you go into not thinking about. And I have never been aroused by the vision of me as my preferred gender. So this final pet peeve, being transgender, is an expression of identity, not sexual arousal. All right, I'm going to go back to a couple of comments. Rena, you are still there, and I'm glad. Thank you. Hopefully that answered at least something there. If you have something more directed, I would love to answer it. I'm all finished with everything I was going to say. Those were my 4 pet peeves. And I'm willing to stick around about another 31 minutes to answer questions if you'd like to have them. In the meantime, I'm going to go to comments. Let's see what we got here. Soda Pressed has told me to stay away from children. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, hopefully, Johnny Zion, you got my accent. And I've got some applause. Thank you. Oh, Cassandra, hey. Hey, girl. Hey. All right. Um, so disorders have to be causing you harm. So I said that one. Okay, so OCD. So Jamie, I do agree. Yeah, you are. It's good to be right about the concept of disorder, and I also want to point out, like, I'm absolutely not in the least saying that DSM has like all the truth in it. All right, I'm certainly not saying that because it doesn't. There are still classifications around gender that that the DSM considers pathological, and I'm not pleased with that. So I'm with you, Jamie. Thank you for keeping me honest on that. All right, I don't have anything else that's coming up here. So Matt, you have a good point. There's a reason, yeah, the DSM's been revised multiple times. Yeah, we're totally on. We're on version. Oh, Johnny, if that didn't do it, I don't know what would. I just said totally. DSM, we're on DSM-5 at this point, right? And in between DSM-3 and DSM-5, there were significant changes. In fact, between 3 and 3.5, and then 3.5 to 4, they went from sort of like this checklist of, let's see, how far are you fucked up? That's pretty fucked up. That's fucked up. That's okay. Now you are you are clearly disordered. DSM-4 turned it a bit more subjective again to be able to say, does this affect your life? Does it harm your life? Matt, you got me, like, totally. But now DSM-5 has backed off on many other things. I want to point out too, being homosexual, like homosexuality, was classified as a disorder in DSM-3. Being homosexual, certainly everybody here knows somebody gay. Somebody does. So, or you know somebody who is gay. It's a disorder? Come on. So, all right. Well, gosh, I mean, I'm all finished with everything. I mean, somebody's got to have something mean to say to me, or let me see. Oh, so Jamie, you have DSM-4. They're big books. It's like $90 for a PDF, right? That's ridiculous. So, okay, so you diagnosed from only DSM-4. Yeah. No, oh my gosh. It was progressive to be diagnosed from DSM-4, but compared to 3 or 3.5, I guess. Wow, that's a bummer. Now, that being said, I mean, I was talking to people in Georgia, so this was the 1990s, and I remember I can't remember what the test is called. It's MMPI. It's Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory? Something like that. Whatever it is. The point is, I remember taking that. Now, I have suffered, I've had difficulty with dissociative symptoms like my whole life. And when I took this MMPI, thank you, Matt. Okay, to inventory. Thank you. So when I took this, is it personality inventory? Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. Okay. The point is, it's supposed to be able to tell you where you're messed up. And I took this, now remember, because it was kind of funny, because the psychologist is looking at it and goes, were you aware of switching during the time you took this test? And I'm like, no, why? And she goes, well, this really, like, there's no usable results from this. I don't know what I want to say that means, because I don't actually have I have no idea. I wish I could tell you, what that means, but I can't. Apparently, I'm complicated enough that a test cannot, suss out everything about my personality, everything about my psychology. Now, I don't think that's a surprise, because I think it's very difficult to understand somebody based on a multiple choice set of questions. And so I'm not surprised, I guess, is my point. Let me see here. Oh, Jamie says you've had the MMPI thousands of times. Is that because you live in Minnesota? I think that's all it is. Okay. So Matt's saying it's a fist bump of agreement, not a lame threat. That's I suppose you should be seeing the emojis here, folks, but I'm doing a bad job telling everybody. So, all right. Is there anybody who has like a question for me, especially if it has to do with any of the pet peeves that I used or that I talked about? Because I will again say I gotta remember what they were at this point. No, I'm not gonna hit on you. There you go. Transgender is not a fetish; it is an identity. Oh, here we go. Vita Sibersky, be proud of that. All people are complicated in whatever ways. You are who you know you are. So, Vita, let me just tell you, yeah, I am proud of that. The thing is, you know, it was crazy. It is interesting how how the psychologist was disappointed in that. Psychologist was kind of like, shoot, I wish I could have diagnosed, something really nasty, but I couldn't, and I'm like, did you want me to be in some way screwed up? Because that's odd. That's a bummer. And maybe that's just the way, psychologists are. Who knows? But Matt, I will absolutely expand on why I don't like the term cisgender. I tried to use I don't know how well I explained it. I tried to use so as I mentioned, cis and trans, but those two words, those two prefixes, cis and trans, come from the Latin. And cis meaning on the same side of, and trans meaning on the opposite side to. And so it has to do with two carbon atoms that are absolutely in a relationship because they are bonded to each other. Not just single bonded where they can rotate, but a double bond where they cannot rotate anymore. Is a rigid bond. And this is used, these terms were originally used in organic chemistry for cis trans isomerism. And these two carbons that I'm showing here, this is of course a carbon-carbon double bond. I believe this is the international sign language for double carbon-carbon double bond. Those are absolutely in a relationship, but sex and gender are not. And the word cisgender applies gender on the same side as sex, which has to do only with reproduction. There's no relationship with sex and gender, in which case creating a word that implies a relationship between the two is nonsensical from a scientific standpoint. And Matt, hopefully that explained that. So if cisgender is a nonsensical word, certainly transgender is a nonsensical word too. I have an article that I wrote about this, and at the end of it I said, there's really only one word, and that should be gender. Because if there's no relationship with if there was no relationship between sex and gender, cannot stop saying cis. If there is no relationship, then certainly there should be no words that imply relationships. And so we can just plain say sex, and we shouldn't have to qualify gender. So hopefully that cissexual and transsexual are more sensible. They aren't. The point is that because sex only ever has to do with reproduction. Okay, never mind the last. Perfect. So each of us has a gender, and that's it. Each of us has a gender, and so when you get asked the question, I actually appreciated. Somebody asked me, how many genders are there? And I appreciate being able to answer the question. Only one, and that's yours. Because gender is an individual implementation of all of your stuff. Your genetics, your physical structure, everything. So I am disclaiming a relationship between sex and gender. That's right. All right, let me look at other comments here. So yes, Genevieve, the pet peeves. God, you know what? Believe it or not, I closed the window. If you can buy that. All right. So the four that I had. I hate the word trans. That's not what social construct means. No, I'm not going to hit on you. And there's a difference between fetish and identity. So, all right. Hopefully that worked for you. Vita, so psychologists are following a list to define people. All right. So Vita, I have a whole thought around this. Western society really seems hell-bent on defining pathologies, that we have to qualify who each of us is through a pathology. And that bums me out. Like I really hate the idea that the only thing that I am is a pathology. The only thing I can be is a set of disorders. Because none of us is normal, right? Each of us gets depressed at times. Each of us can be angry. Each of us can have anxiety. For whatever reason, we're scared about stupid things, That's normal. That's being a human. But we have to call some of these things pathologies. And I had something, Vita. I'm going to guess you didn't see it, but I had a live stream not that long ago where I talked about the concept of pathology. Because earlier on in this particular live stream, I said that I feel so much better having transitioned gender. But in order to feel so much better, what I had to do was go to somebody and say, there's something wrong with me. I have a pathology. I need you to prescribe medicine so that I can fix this pathology. But if the pathology is us having psychosocial distress, did I fix a pathology? I had to call being transgender wrong. It sucks. That sucks a lot. Thank you, Vita, for subscribing. I appreciate that. It's terrible. I don't like having to refer to myself as somebody broken. I don't like thinking of everybody in the world broken in some way. We're all just humans. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to read this. Matt has written to me, I am disappointed that you're not going to hit on me, but you'll survive. I'll survive. My wife is probably upstairs. So, I do have a good relationship. So, all right. LMM says, why make your sexuality/gender what you are? Why spend so much energy on this? That's a really good question. It's not me who's made sexuality and gender a big thing. You are coming at me saying I'm making it a big deal, and I'm only making it a big deal because I want to say to everybody out there, in fact, I'll look right at you, stop making this a big deal. All I'm doing is what I do. Why are you fixed on this, LMM? I don't want to spend energy on this, but there are people who make laws that say I can't express myself the way I do. People want to, people are there are lists, okay, of transgender people so that if you see them, you can take a pot shot at them. Is there a reason I should be, I should not be upset by that? I kind of am. What law? Holy cats, LMM, you need to go to Tennessee. You need to go to Florida. There are plenty of laws that restrict access to gender-affirming care. Texas is another one. Laws that prevent people. There are things now going on in the UK after the Cass report came out, filled with poorly developed conclusions that are keeping people from getting hormone therapy. They're keeping people from expressing the person they are. So there. Thank you for being polite. Was that being polite? Thank you. I thought I got a little bit heated. I will absolutely try to be polite to anybody who asks me questions because I think it's important. So, all right, let's see. All the good ones are taken. I'm going to come out of this blushing like a schoolgirl here. All right, I did get some other things. I'm not sure what the deal is with this person, Millie Webbs. Whatever. All right, so Saoirse George says, making transgender normal, absolutely. So what terminology would I prefer to describe transgender experiences? What I would love us to do is just be able to say, this is me as a human. And that's about it. I don't see any reason why we really have to classify things as in line with body parts that nobody's seeing or not in line with body parts that nobody's seeing. Because now that I've had gender affirming surgery, does this mean I'm no longer transgender? because now my body aligns with the way I express myself on the outside. And so this is why I think it's a nonsensical term. I wish we could just use the word gender, because that implies the individual implementation of everything about us. So, all right, I've got something from Sarah Sasha Smith. I love that. Sarah Sasha Smith. I'm going to say it one more time. Sarah Sasha Smith. Every time a guy says it's fine that I'm trans, just don't hit on me, I always say I wasn't going to. And then they always look a bit sad. Yes! I always love that. I'm sure I have people who are like, hey, I'm okay with you being pansexual, but do you recoil? When somebody says that, when somebody goes, don't hit on me, do you go, ooh, holy cats, man, look at you. There's no way. I'm way out of your league. All right, so Tender Breeze has said, for me, accepting my dysphoria for what it is was a big deal. I completely agree. I have the feeling, Tender Breeze, that the most difficult aspect of being transgender is accepting that we're okay. I believe that very strongly. I mean, I've talked to a lot of transgender people, and the biggest hurdles, first of all, accepting, I mean, it comes in two flavors. One of them is, am I trans enough? Which is interesting. Am I trans enough? And the other one is, do I deserve to do this? And it takes accepting the ideology, and it takes accepting the words. It's terrible. So Tender Breeze, I'm sorry that you are okay. Oh, sorry, you're okay with the diagnosis, not the pathology. Completely true. Holy cats. Yeah. Don't think of yourself as a pathology. Sister, don't think of yourself as a pathology. You are not, I am not. So, all right, let me see what I got over here. So LMM, hopefully you got addressed. Floridian here. Oh, Matt, you're in Florida? I'm not sure what the dolls are gorgeous thing is, Matt. So, all right. Yeah, Millie should be ignored. I'm a little unsure. At some point, actually, some things got deleted, and I'm not sure why, and I'm happy about this. But if I were going to assign a leader, Millie, Vita would be the one. So, all right. Oh, gotcha. Looking sad when she... So there's the thing, Tender Breeze. Matt Adeline says, Tender Breeze, you should... Oh, sorry, Sarah Sasha Smith. They should be sad because dolls are gorgeous and you are a doll, is what Matt has said. So, all right. I'm unsure if I want to stick around another 12 minutes. Does somebody have a question? Give me a question, any question. It can be crazy. Give me a crazy question that I can answer in 12 minutes or less. All right, there you go. Sarah says, no, I just said, no, I just said in a slightly condescending way. That's the way to do it. Just go, no. And even then, I've even had two guys that have said that to me, come back and hit on you later. Really? I will say though, it's been interesting. There have been times, there have been changes in some of the relationships that I've had. I mean, like big ones. And this feels great. This actually validates me, in how I look, or at least. But I've had people, we had sort of antagonistic relationships before. And then now it's become very nice and, so how are you two? Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. All right. Braylin, who knows? I think you all need a rebranding. What do I think? A rebranding? Well, we'll tell you, if you're unhappy with the way that you're presenting, change it. Please go change it. That's what I recommend, because it sucks having only a single brand that you're not able to do anything with. Don't let that be. All right. Ooh, Saoirse asks a good question. Saoirse asks, what gender is my guitar? So interesting. So I have two. Actually, I have three, but the two I'm going to talk about. So I have one red Fender Stratocaster, by the corner there. That one's name is Brigid Bordeaux, after the goddess Brigid, and it is kind of a Bordeaux color. Actually, that was the color that was in the custom shop thing. So, Brigid Bordeaux. That is a girl. The other one is a 1988 Eric Clapton signature Fender Stratocaster. I'm not a big fan of what Eric Clapton has mentioned recently, so while I do love this guitar, I do want to distance myself a tiny bit from Eric Clapton. That one is a boy. I don't know why. That guitar has never had a name, has always just been a guitar. EC Sig is what I've called it, and it's kind of a bummer. You know, I wish I had a slightly different relationship with it, but I don't. And I've had it since it was new. I can't do math. Somebody out there do the math for me. I got it in 1988. So however many years that is. All right, here's a question. Tender Breeze asks a question. I've been thinking about getting some of my existing clothes tailored so they fit me better. Have I edited / altered old articles of clothing, or do I mainly get new looks? This is a really good question. Really early on, it's hard. Which direction do I want to take this? It was really difficult for me at the very beginning to go to the department store and just try that on, try stuff on, because it's hard. There's this, first of all, I thought I was going to get caught. I'm trying on women's clothing. I was afraid somebody was going to jump out of a dressing room and go, hey, you're not allowed to put on pants, cut it out, and then get me booted out. So it was very difficult for me. And I actually went down the road of saying, okay, I'm going to go find a tailor. And actually now we're friends. We're even friends on Facebook. But I found somebody and I said, would you make clothes for me? Actually tailor clothes for me. And he ended up saying, no, too much work, which is fine. That's fine. But my wife actually tailored some clothes for me. She went and got a sewing machine. Listen to this story. She went and got a sewing machine, and she made me my first women's clothing. Well, not my first, but the ones that I wore for sort of that transition, that transitory period, that period where you're like, I'm going to present as a woman, I swear. But I'm not going to do it right this moment. And so now she's also made me some skirts. She's made me some tunics. So, to answer your question, I have not gotten any of my old clothes altered. Mostly I got new ones, but certainly some of those were tailored. And there were, a lot of us had these binge and purge cycles where we're going to buy a whole ton of clothes, and then we're going to dump them all because we feel badly about it. And so if I had some of those binge and purge clothes, I might have had them altered for what it's worth, because they've all been purged, unfortunately. So, all right. So Braylon says, I think there is a stereotype surrounding transgendered people due to people in the media, and you said there should be a different name for it. I did, yeah. So first of all, I want to say this. So transgendered people, is just transgender. So it's people who are transgender. So that's an adjective, not which I guess transgendered ends up being. But there's no transgenderism, something that implies an ideology, something that implies a common set of beliefs and values. So Braylon, I don't know if you're asking this honestly or not, but I'll answer honestly because it's what I do. I think there should be a different name for cisgender and transgender. As I mentioned to Matt before, I believe that, I was taught as a biologist, as a geneticist, that there is a distinction between sex and gender. There is a scientific distinction. There truly is. It's not even that difficult. So, no problem, Braylon. Don't. And hope I'm saying your name right too. No reason to be sorry about misusing words. In fact, actually, I appreciate that you took that well, because I know there are a lot of people who are afraid to use a word, and as such will not even engage with somebody like me because they go, "What if I just piss you off?" Well, I don't want to piss you off. What I want to do is just answer questions. I just want to be normal. I just want to be, what people, I want to be the kind of person that people go, hey, it's cool to talk to her. That's it. So there is a stereotype. There's a huge stereotype. And the thing is that the media, I want to talk first about the media, because the purpose of the media is to sell advertising. I mean, think about that. All right. Every article that you read, like if you go to MSNBC or something like that, if you go to whatever you go to, the purpose of those stories is to bring people to the website so that MSN can sell advertising. There's no other reason, really. If you're running your own blog, it's much more likely to be honest and I would guess, I'm not going to say unbiased, but certainly, there's less of a chance of it being kind of weird because they're not trying to sell advertising, presumably, let's say. So the media writes stories that sell, that bring people to see it. I believe there are many, many transgender people just be a normal the normal people that they are, and the media grabs them and stuffs it into some, wants to make sure that it's going to be sensational so that people will come and read the articles, see the advertising. So I do agree. The media is a bad thing. The way the media portrays transgender people is bad. And that's what I'm trying to do. Saoirse brought up the phrase making transgender normal. I called that my motto in 2020, is making transgender normal since 2022, which I want to do. I want people to be able to see I'm just like a person. And yes, Braylon, I agree. I think we are normal. We are misrepresented. So Jessica Walton asks an absolutely beautiful question, which is, do I ever long for a future where we no longer distinguish people as transgender? We're all just men, women, non-binary, etc. Is that distinction important? To me, Jessica, that distinction is unimportant. I don't want to be thought of as transgender. I want to be thought of as a woman. I want to be, in fact, you know what? What I want to be thought of is just who I am. I have no need to be called transgender, cisgender, man, woman. What I want to be considered is just a person. Now I know, there are social, I don't know the word I want to use. There are social, I'll use construct, because why not? Where we have men's soccer, women's soccer, men's basketball, whatever. I realize we make distinctions around that, and I wish we didn't have to. I really wish we didn't have to, because I don't think it adds anything. I really don't think it does. There's women's boxing. I'm not going to say anything about this, just to say, like, if I were to go into women's boxing, I was assigned male at birth, and I think I would get flattened. Because there are boxers, who are assigned female at birth who would flatten me. Why do we need to make this distinction? Especially when genetics is absolutely not a clear, does not make clear boundaries. I don't know. Why do we have to make these distinctions? I wish I had a good answer for that, but I don't. And certainly I'm not going to be able to find one in the next 2 minutes. So thank you so much for that question, Jessica. And hopefully that helped at all. So now that it's 1:58, at least where I am, I'm going to start shutting things down. And I just want to say, listen, everybody who showed up, I know there were some people who said mean things to me. I hope that everybody who said something mean walked away saying, oh, look, at least I was not treated like a jerk. Some people maybe need to be treated like jerks. But I want to thank everybody who came to watch this. I want to thank everybody who asked me a question. Because again, if I can't explain who I am, you're never going to know. Now are you? All right. With that, let me say thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Hopefully somebody else will come and ask me more questions. Thank you. Bye.